We will reconvene and Myra, we're gonna, so remind me, we're just on probation, right? Or do you also do the other?
I do probation, now I do probation, community corrections, and vet court.
She is pages 39 all the way to 48.
Okay, all right, well, let's get started.
39 to 48.
39 to 48.
But
Perfect. Myra, will you start with the probation budget?
Yes, so we'll start out with the probation officer salaries out of the general fund. Those were only increased by the state mandated for this year. Each year, you know, the state sends out a budget as to how much our salaries are. So that's the amounts that they were budgeted to. Now there is a little bit of a push from probation officers, professional association to possibly raise those salaries, but at this point they have not. So I just did it based on the salary ordinance that we've gotten from the state.
Okay.
okay.
The next section that I have was the community corrections grant that I applied for from the Department of Corrections last year. And I basically mimicked exactly what I had last year, except for I added under jail services down there at the bottom, towards the bottom is our place contract for jail services. Britt Miller had been requesting in the past week, PAC to put classes in the jail for inmates to do for alcohol drug program. There was no money to do that once PAC dissolved, so I have now contracted with our place for next year for $16,000 for that. That again will come out of the grant. I am still waiting on an answer on my grant yet. I haven't heard for sure if that's approved yet or not.
Okay.
The next one I have is the community transition program. When I took over Hoosier Hills PAC, I also took over the community transition program as part of the community corrections. The grants like to see you using some of your money that you earn, and so because of the push with the salary, I kept the amount in the community corrections the same as what I had last year, but I used $3,000 of my community transition program money that I've earned this year to supplement that salary in case there is an increase before January 1 to that, and it would come out of the amount of money we've earned. And as of right now, I have $3,000 sitting in there. We do have another community transition program person getting ready to come out to go on, so that will increase, but I do for sure know I have that $3,000 sitting there.
Okay.
The next section is adult probation. There wasn't much increase. I did increase, of course, the mileage and training because of the price of fuel. I increased that, and then I also I asked for a raise for my 2 secretaries, and then I increased my retirement and my group health and life insurance because one of my secretaries is receiving a stipend from the grant, from the Department of Community Corrections grant, and so I needed to increase that to make sure I had enough in there because her retirement and her group life health insurance is all still coming out of the probation side, not out of the community corrections.
So your retirement is not through PERF, it's through...
No, it is through PERF.
Through PERF,
Yeah.
okay.
And then Myra, are you eliminating a position or what is the 40,000?
No, so the 40,000 was originally put in there to pay for the alcohol and drug class. We now have that up and running. We got it started up and running in February. We have received our temporary certification. We are right in the middle of trying to get our permanent certification. And if we receive that, that'll be certified for 4 years. So I had kicked around going ahead and rolling that to come out of the user fees that we had collected, but decided to wait until I actually received the certification. So the money to get that program started was being taken out of the probation user fees. So I eliminated that one because I won't read it. It'll come out of the alcohol and drug user fees that we've collected.
Okay.
So the next budget that I have is the alcohol and drug user fees. The contracted amount of services for this current year is $40,000. Mary Beth happened to be on vacation, so I'm not sure if that's going to change. So I just went ahead and upped that to $50,000, but that would come out of the user fees that we collect. And as of right now, as of this week, I have $19,700 sitting in that fund that I've collected so far.
And which one is that?
That's,
Page 47.
47, thank you.
It's a new one.
Yeah.
yeah, I've got several.
Okay, give us just 1 minute, Mary.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay, so this,
49,400.
And how much did you say?
I've already collected $19,700 in that fund as of right now, as of 7/18. It's paid for as the probationers pay for their class. They are charged a $400 fee. And so that goes in that fund, and then that'll pay for the contracted services too.
Okay.
Okay?
so it's paid for with user fees.
Correct. Most of my things are either paid by user fees or grants.
Right, yeah, yeah.
The next budget is the juvenile probation. I did not have any changes in that one. That is exactly the same as what we have this year.
Page 43.
The next one I have is the home detention fund. The only thing, I did increase the fuel based on the correct price of gas. And I also increased the maintenance and repair because we've had the van since January, I think, of 2020. And it's possible we may have to look at getting some new tires for that. So I wanted to make sure I had plenty of money in there to cover those tires, besides the oil changes and things like that that needs done. And I took out the insurance on the van. At this point, I've never had to pay for that. That was kind of come in from my previous budget. I think when Ernie filled it out and bought the van, he was told that it's possible, so he put that in there. It's never happened, so we did take that out. Then the next one is drug screening testing. And last year I had 22,000 budgeted for that, and I raised that to 25, and that's just because of the cost of everything going up. So I did raise that to 25,000 so that I'm covered if the bill comes in high.
More tests too, I'm assuming.
Not really more, because we test our probationers right now once a quarter. But there is times where if they're testing positive, we may test them once a month, especially while they're pending in court. So yeah, there's always a possibility there may be more tests.
That's what I was thinking, more if somebody, a user was positive.
Right, and the other thing that we, with having community corrections in the probation department, when I first wrote the grant, I thought it would be totally separate. It's obvious it's not, it's kind of a blended. So the people who are on day reporting are also, most of them on a term of probation. And so those drug screens for those people are running through their probation fund, but they're being screened once a month too, whereas our probationers are not screened that often. So yeah, we do have definitely more screens coming out of that. Then the next one I have is Veterans Court. So let me explain a little bit about this. After Hoosier Hills PAC dissolved in Washington County, shortly after the first of the year, we met with the lady who had been the coordinator of vet court. We informed her that her boss had not applied for a grant for her salary, and things just kind of fell apart at that time. So Veterans Court was handed over to me. The grants that she had applied for was handed over to me. She had 2 grants. One was a $60,000 grant through the state of Indiana, and one was a $9,000 grant. So the one that I have here, I don't know what page, Michelle, it's the $9,000 one.
46.
Oh, okay.
46 for us.
Okay, so that, I took what she had. The state let me go in and change the categories. I couldn't change the amount that she had received, which was $9,000, but I could change the counts they were in. So I did that to fit what we needed, because at that point I thought that's all I had was that money, and so I was really scraping. And so I took that and made this budget with what we had collected this year. The only difference is on supplies, there is currently over $500 sitting in the Veterans Court Fund that the participants have paid in. And so under supplies, I added that $500 in to make it, so my budget in that's $9,500. But that $500 is coming out of the user fees that were paid, and the $9,000 would come from the Indiana Office of Court Services grant. Then I applied for, because in the past, Paxton applied for a grant from the Department of Corrections. And so I did apply for a grant through there as well. And I just kind of sat down with what we knew we needed and drew that up. I have 5,000 in incentives. We hand out gift cards to the participants when they do well in that program. And then I have 25,000 in training and travel, because normally we go to, some of the team members go to a conference, and then we have 20,000 in drug screen processing for that budget. So that totaled 50,000 coming out of that one. So again, at this time, I have not heard if my grants are approved. I thought I was going to be told by the 8th, but you know how that works.
What?
Yeah.
All right, council, do you have any questions for Myra?
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. If we have any questions, we'll play back tomorrow.
Okay,
All right, thanks, Myra.
all right.